You're on an airplane, and the flight attendant is giving the safety demonstration. What do they always say about oxygen masks? Put your own mask on first before helping others. Have you ever wondered why? Because you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give what you don't have. And you certainly can't build an extraordinary life while putting yourself last on your own priority list. Your typical day. Where do you fall on your own to-do list? If you're like most people, you've pushed yourself so far down that list that you can barely see yourself anymore. You're running on empty, trying to fill everyone else's cup while yours runs dry. When the oxygen mask drops down, every natural instinct tells you to help your child first, your elderly parent first, your partner first. But that split-second decision to put yourself last could cost everyone their chance of survival. It's a powerful metaphor for life itself. In this room, 87% of you are experiencing what I call the priority paradox. You're working harder than ever, achieving more than ever, and yet feeling more depleted than ever. You're caught in an endless cycle of giving to your work, your family, your commitments, while putting your own growth, health, and happiness on hold. But what if I told you that this very moment could be the turning point? What if today marked the end of living life on autopilot and the beginning of living life by design? What if you discovered that by making yourself your top priority, you could multiply your impact in every other area of your life? I'm not talking about becoming selfish. I'm talking about becoming strategic, about understanding that your greatest gift to the world is your own fully realized potential. And that potential remains locked away until you make the conscious decision to put yourself first. The cost of continuing down your current path is too high. Every day you postpone making yourself a priority is another day of living below your true capabilities, another day of setting the example for your children that self-sacrifice to the point of depletion is somehow noble, another day of telling yourself that your dreams can wait. They can't wait, and neither can you. They can't wait, and neither can you. Because right now, we're facing an epidemic that nobody's talking about, an epidemic of self-neglect that's costing us more than we could ever imagine. Just look around you. Look at the people you know, your colleagues, your friends, your family members. How many of them are running on empty? How many are stuck in this endless cycle of exhaustion and obligation? The numbers are staggering. Recent studies show that 70 professionals are experiencing burnout. Think about that. 3 out of 4 people you know are pushing themselves to the breaking point. I recently spoke with a top executive. Let's call her Sarah. She was doing everything right, at least by society's standards, running a successful division, raising 3 kids, maintaining a picture-perfect home. But do you know what she told me? She hadn't had a full night's sleep in 5 years. She couldn't remember the last time she read a book for pleasure. Her health was deteriorating. Her marriages was strained, and her creativity, once her greatest asset, had all but disappeared. This is the real cost of putting yourself last. It's not just about feeling tired or stressed. It's about the slow erosion of everything that makes you uniquely valuable. When you consistently prioritize everyone and everything else above yourself, you're not just sacrificing your well-being. You're sacrificing your potential to make your greatest contribution to the world. The average person spends 92% of their time taking care of external obligations and only 8% on personal development and self-care. Now, imagine running a business where you invested only 8% in maintenance and growth. How long would that business last? Yet that's exactly what we're doing with our most important asset, ourselves. The personal cost goes even deeper. Studies show that chronic self-neglect leads to a 47% decrease in creative problem-solving abilities, a 33% reduction in decision-making effectiveness, and a staggering 64% drop in overall life satisfaction. These aren't just numbers. They represent dreams unfulfilled, potential unrealized, and lives lived far below their true capacity. I see it every day. People postponing their health until they have more time, delaying their personal growth until they're less busy, putting their dreams on hold until things settle down. But here's the hard truth. Things never settle down. The time never magically appears. The only thing that changes is the cost of waiting, and that cost compounds daily. What opportunities have you missed because you were too depleted to recognize them? What relationships have suffered because you had nothing left to give? What dreams have you put on hold because you were too busy meeting everyone else's expectations? The most dangerous part about this crisis is how normal it's become. We've normalized exhaustion. We've glorified busyness. We've somehow convinced ourselves that running on empty is a badge of honor rather than a warning sign. But there's something even more crucial we need to understand about this crisis of self-neglect. We've been operating under a fundamental misconception, one that's been holding us back from reaching our true potential. Most people confuse self-priority with selfishness. They carry this crushing guilt every time they put themselves first. But here's the truth that transformed my understanding. Self-priority isn't about being selfish. It's about being strategic. It's about leadership, starting with yourself. Would you call a farmer selfish for taking care of their soil? Would you criticize a musician for maintaining their instrument? Would you blame an athlete for staying in peak condition? Of course not. Because you understand that their ability to produce, to perform, to excel depends entirely on how well they maintain their primary asset. You are your primary asset. Everything you want to achieve, every person you want to help, every dream you want to realize, it all depends on you being at your best. Not just surviving, but thriving. When you truly make yourself a priority, you create what I call the multiplier effect. Your energy multiplies, your impact multiplies, your ability to serve others multiplies. I've seen it countless times. When someone finally gives themselves permission to prioritize their own well-being, their entire life transforms. Their relationships improve, their career accelerates. Their confidence soars. Remember that executive I mentioned earlier? After 6 months of putting herself first, protecting her sleep, investing in her health, nurturing her creativity, she didn't just recover from burnout. Her division's performance increased by 40%. Her relationship with her children deepened. Her marriage rekindled. Why? Because she finally had something to give. She was operating from a place of abundance rather than depletion. This isn't theory, it's a proven principle. When you make yourself your top priority, you show up differently in every area of your life. You make better decisions because you're well rested. You solve problems more creatively because your mind is clear. You lead more effectively because you're operating from a place of strength, not struggle. But to fully grasp how to make this transformation, we need to understand 4 fundamental truths that successful people have always known about self-priority. But to fully grasp how to make this transformation, we need to understand 4 fundamental truths that successful people have always known about self-priority. These aren't just ideas, they're principles that have transformed countless lives, including my own. The first truth might surprise you. Your energy, not your time, is your most precious currency. Most people obsess over time management, but here's what they miss. You can have all the time in the world, but without energy, that time is worthless. I've seen people waste entire days simply because they had no energy to make those hours count. Look at your own life. When was the last time you felt truly energized? Not just getting by, not just caffeinated, but genuinely energized. That state where ideas flow freely, where problems become opportunities, where you're fully alive in every moment. That's your natural state. That's what becomes possible when you make energy management your top priority. The second fundamental truth is something I call the power of the strategic no. Every time you say yes to something without considering yourself first, you're saying no to your own growth. It's a subtle form of self-sabotage that most people never recognize. High achievers understand this. They know that their ability to say no to good things is what creates space for great things. A powerful exercise. Take out your calendar right now. Look at your commitments for the next week. How many of those commitments truly align with your highest priorities? How many are just habits, obligations you've accepted without thinking? Every yes should excite you, energize you, move you forward. If it doesn't, it's costing you more than you realize. The third truth is the growth multiplier effect. When you invest in yourself, the returns don't just add up, they multiply. Think of it like compound interest for your personal development. Every skill you master, every book you read, every healthy habit you develop, they don't just improve one area of your life. They create a ripple effect that touches everything. I've seen this happen repeatedly. Someone starts by simply protecting their morning routine. Within weeks, their productivity soars. Their relationships improve. Their decision-making sharpens. Why? Because growth in one area triggers growth in all areas. That's the multiplier effect in action. Fourth and final truth is perhaps the most crucial. Self-priority is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. You don't decide once to make yourself a priority and then you're done. You decide every morning when you wake up. You decide with every commitment you make. You decide with every boundary you set. This daily practice principle is what separates those who transform their lives from those who simply have good intentions. It's like physical fitness. You don't go to the gym once and expect to stay in shape forever. You show up consistently, day after day, making the choice to prioritize your health. The same applies to making yourself a priority. It requires daily choices, daily actions, daily recommitments to your own growth and well-being. Some days it'll be easier than others. Some days you'll face resistance, both internal and external. But it's the consistency of your practice that creates lasting change. These 4 truths lay the foundation for everything else. But to turn these truths into transformation, we need to understand the 7 specific pillars that support a life of genuine self-priority. These 4 truths lay the foundation for everything else. But to turn these truths into transformation, we need to understand the 7 specific pillars that support a life of genuine self-priority. These pillars aren't just concepts. They're the practical framework that turns intention into reality. The first pillar is physical well-being, and it's first for a reason. Your body is the vehicle that carries your dreams. When your physical energy is low, everything else suffers. I learned this lesson the hard way, pushing myself to exhaustion year after year until my body finally forced me to stop. Now I know peak performance isn't about pushing harder. It's about optimizing your physical foundation. This isn't about becoming a marathon runner or living on kale smoothies. It's about honoring your body's basic needs. Quality sleep isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Regular movement isn't an indulgence, it's an investment. Proper nutrition isn't an option. It's essential fuel for your success. When you make your physical well-being non-negotiable, everything else becomes easier. The second pillar is mental clarity, and this is where most people struggle in today's world. Your mind is bombarded with thousands of inputs every day. Emails, notifications, requests, worries, deadlines. Mental clarity doesn't happen by accident. You have to create it intentionally. The most successful people I know guard their mental space as carefully as they guard their physical health. Start your day with clarity before the world intrudes. Create periods of deep focus where you turn everything else off. Learn to quiet the mental chatter that keeps you stuck in reaction mode. Your mind is your most powerful tool, but only when you protect its ability to think clearly and creatively. The third pillar is emotional mastery, and this might be the most underrated skill in personal development. Your emotions drive your decisions, your actions, your results. Yet how many of us were ever taught to master our emotional state? Understanding and managing your emotions isn't weak. It's one of the strongest things you can do. I've seen countless people sabotage their success because they never learned emotional mastery. They let fear stop them from taking necessary risks. They let anger damage important relationships. They let anxiety paralyze their decision-making. Emotional mastery means choosing your response rather than being ruled by your reactions. The fourth pillar is time sovereignty. And notice I don't say time management. Management implies just getting more done. Sovereignty means taking back control of your time, making it serve your highest priorities. Your time is your life in its most concrete form. Every minute you spend is a minute of your life you're investing somewhere. Most people live in a reactive state, letting others control their time. They respond to every interruption, say yes to every request, fill every moment with activity. Time sovereignty means taking back that control. It means designing your days around your priorities, not other people's emergencies. The fifth pillar is financial independence, and this goes far beyond just making money. True financial independence means having the resources to support your growth without compromise. It means being able to say no to opportunities that don't align with your values. It means investing in yourself without guilt. I've seen too many people postpone their growth because they didn't make it a financial priority. They'll spend money on everything else but hesitate to invest in themselves. Remember, every dollar you invest in your own development has the potential to multiply many times over. The sixth pillar is relationship boundaries, and this is where self-priority often faces its greatest test. The people around you are used to your old patterns. When you start prioritizing yourself, some of them will resist. Setting and maintaining healthy boundaries isn't just about saying no, it's about teaching others how to respect your priorities. This doesn't mean becoming isolated or uncaring. In fact, it's the opposite. When you have clear boundaries, your relationships actually improve. You show up fully present, energized, and capable of genuine connection rather than resentful and depleted. The seventh and final pillar is personal growth commitment. This is your dedication to continuous improvement, to becoming the best version of yourself, not for others' approval, but for your own fulfillment. This commitment isn't about perfection. It's about progress, about waking up each day with the intention to grow, to learn, to expand your capabilities. These 7 pillars work together. Weakness in one undermines the others. Strength in one reinforces the rest. That's why a comprehensive approach to self-priority is so powerful. When you strengthen all 7 pillars, you create an unshakable foundation for sustainable success. But knowing these pillars isn't enough. You need a practical system to implement them in your daily life. You need a framework that turns these principles into practice. But knowing these pillars isn't enough. You need a practical system to implement them in your daily life. You need a framework that turns these principles into practice. And that's exactly what I'm going to share with you now, a proven implementation system that's transformed thousands of lives. Everything starts with your morning ritual, not just any morning routine, but a specifically designed ritual that sets up your entire day for success. The first hour of your day determines the quality of the remaining 23. When you take control of your morning, you take control of your life. Physio and mental needs 3 essential components: physical activation, mental preparation, and emotional alignment. Start with 10 minutes of movement, not intense exercise, just enough to wake up your body. Follow that with 10 minutes of clarity work, planning, journaling, or meditation. Then spend 10 minutes visualizing your day and setting your emotional state. This 30-minute investment will multiply your effectiveness all day long. Next comes your energy management system. Think of your energy like a bank account. Every activity either deposits or withdraws energy. The key is learning to make more deposits than withdrawals. Map out your peak energy times. Schedule your most important work during these periods. Protect these power hours like you'd protect your most valuable possession, because they are. I discovered something fascinating. Most people waste their best hours on low priority tasks. They check emails when their energy is highest. They schedule important decisions for late afternoon when their energy is lowest. This isn't just inefficient. It's costing you your most productive hours. The boundary setting protocol is next, and this requires both strategy and courage. Start by identifying your non-negotiables, the activities and commitments that are essential for your well-being and growth. These become your protected time blocks. When someone requests this time, you don't need to explain or apologize. You simply say, I have a commitment during that time. People will respect your boundary when you respect them first. But you have to be consistent. One breach, one exception, and you'll find yourself back where you started. Your boundaries protect your energy, your growth, and ultimately your ability to serve others at the highest level. The priority audit process is your reality check. Once a month, sit down with your calendar and your task list. Look at how you've actually spent your time. And not just how you plan to spend it. Are your actions aligned with your priorities? Are you investing in all 7 pillars we discussed? This audit isn't about guilt. It's about awareness and adjustment. I've seen people transform their lives just by doing this audit consistently. They suddenly realize they're spending hours on activities that don't serve their highest good. They discover gaps between their stated priorities and their actual behavior. This awareness becomes the catalyst for change. The weekly recalibration method ties everything together. Every Sunday evening, spend 30 minutes planning your week, but not just scheduling tasks, strategically designing your week to support your priority pillars. Block your exercise time first. Schedule your learning and growth activities. Protect your energy peaks for your most important work. This weekly practice isn't just about planning. It's about recommitting to yourself as your top priority. It's your chance to course correct, to adjust your boundaries, to ensure you're not slipping back into old patterns of self-neglect. The beauty of this implementation framework is its flexibility. It's not rigid rules. It's a living system that adapts to your needs while keeping you focused on what matters most. Some weeks you'll execute it perfectly. Other weeks you'll struggle. That's normal. What matters is returning to the framework, adjusting as needed, and keeping yourself as your top priority. Remember, implementation without resistance is a fantasy. You will face obstacles. People will push back against your new boundaries. Your old habits will try to reassert themselves. Your own mind will create doubts and excuses. This is where most people give up. But this is also where transformation begins. That's why understanding how to overcome this resistance is crucial. There are specific strategies for pushing through these challenges, for maintaining your commitment even when everything and everyone seems to be pulling you back to your old patterns. That's why understanding how to overcome this resistance is crucial. The moment you decide to make yourself a priority, you'll face resistance from two directions, internal and external. But once you understand the nature of this resistance, you can move through it rather than being stopped by it. Let's start with those internal blocks, the voices in your head that try to talk you out of prioritizing yourself. You know these voices. Who do you think you are? You're being selfish. Your family needs you. Your work can't wait. These aren't just random thoughts. They're deeply ingrained beliefs that have been programmed into you over years, maybe decades. Internal blocks aren't trying to hurt you. They're trying to protect you from change, from judgment, from potential failure, but protection isn't what you need right now. Growth is what you need. And growth requires moving through discomfort. The key to dissolving internal blocks is to recognize them as outdated protection mechanisms. When that voice says you're being selfish, respond with, I'm being strategic. When it says others need you, answer with, they need me at my best. Don't fight these voices, reframe them. Turn them from obstacles into allies. External pressures are different. These come from real people with real expectations, habits, and demands. The colleague who's used to getting immediate responses, the family member who expects you to drop everything for them. The organization that rewards constant availability over actual results. Managing these pressures requires something I call compassionate firmness. You're not being unkind when you maintain your boundaries, you're being clear. Start small. Practice saying, I'll be able to help you with that tomorrow during my designated time. Or I need to decline because that would conflict with my essential priorities. The guilt, that's often the toughest part. But here's something powerful I learned. Guilt is just evidence that you're breaking old patterns. It's not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you're doing something new. Make time you feel that guilt. Remind yourself, my self-care serves everyone. My growth benefits all. One of the most effective guilt elimination strategies is to document the positive impacts of your self-priority. Keep a journal of how your increased energy affects your relationships. Note how your clearer thinking improves your work. Record how your emotional stability benefits your family. Real evidence beats guilty feelings every time. But you don't have to do this alone. Creating a support system is crucial. Find people who understand what you're doing and why. Share your commitment with them. Ask for their support. Be specific about what you need, whether that's accountability, encouragement, or just understanding. Your support system might be small at first. Maybe just one or two people who really get it. That's enough. What matters is having someone who reminds you of your worth when you forget, who celebrates your progress when you doubt, who understands that your self-priority isn't selfish, it's necessary. And speaking of necessary, you need a clear plan for the next 30 days. Because the first month of any transformation is crucial. And speaking of necessary, you need a clear plan for the first 30 days. Because the first month of any transformation is crucial. This is where habits form, where new patterns take root, where your commitment to self-priority becomes real. Your first 7 days are about establishing your morning ritual. No negotiation, no excuses. Wake up 30 minutes earlier than usual. Spend that time purely on yourselves. Simple movement, quiet, reflection, day planning. Nothing elaborate, just consistent. If thoughts of work or obligations creep in, gently push them aside. This is your time. Day U14 focuses on energy tracking. Carry a small notebook. Every 2 hours, rate your energy level from 1 to 10. Note what you're doing, who you're with, what you've eaten. Patterns will emerge. You'll see exactly when your energy peaks and valleys occur. This isn't just data, it's your personal energy blueprint. By day 15, you'll start implementing your energy-based schedule. Schedule your most important tasks during your peak hours. Protect these time blocks fiercely. When someone asks for these hours, remember, saying no to them is saying yes to yourself. Your high energy hours are your most valuable asset. Days 16 through 21 are about boundary installation. Start with one firm boundary. Maybe it's no phone calls during your morning ritual. Maybe it's leaving work at a specific time. Pick one boundary and enforce it consistently. Yes, people will test it. Yes, it will feel uncomfortable. Do it anyway. The final week is about integrating everything. Your morning ritual is solid. Your energy management is clear. Your boundaries are firm. Now you'll add weekly planning sessions every Sunday evening, 30 minutes, to design your week around your priorities. This isn't just scheduling. It's strategic life design. Throughout these 30 days, track 3 key metrics. First, your energy level at the end of each day. Second, the number of times you maintained your boundaries. Third, your accomplishments in each of the 7 pillars we discussed earlier. Simple check marks on a tracking sheet. This isn't about perfection. It's about progress. You might be thinking this sounds simple. It is simple, but simple doesn't mean easy. You'll face resistance. Old habits will try to creep back. People will test your new boundaries. Some days you'll nail it. Other days you'll slip. That's not failure. That's feedback. Each week, take 5 minutes to review your tracking sheet. Celebrate your wins, no matter how small. Learn from your setbacks, no matter how large. Remember, this isn't just about checking boxes. It's about becoming the person who naturally makes themselves a priority. By day 30, something remarkable will happen. You'll feel different. Your energy will be higher. Your mind will be clearer. Your boundaries will be stronger. People will notice the change in you, not because you're doing less for them, but because you're showing up as your best self. But this 30-day plan is just the beginning. To make this transformation permanent, to turn these changes into your new normal, you need to understand the success patterns that others have discovered on this journey. But this 30-day plan is just the beginning. I've watched thousands take this journey of self-priority, and the transformations have been nothing short of remarkable. Take Michael, a senior executive who is working 70-hour weeks. His health was deteriorating, his marriage was strained, and his leadership was faltering. Within 60 days of making himself his top priority, his team's productivity actually increased by 40. Why? Because they started modeling his new boundaries, his energy management, his clear thinking. Or consider Rachel, a mother of 3 who constantly put herself last. She was exhausted, resentful, running on empty. Her breakthrough came when she realized that by neglecting herself, she was teaching her daughters to do the same. Once she started prioritizing her well-being, something amazing happened. Her children became more independent, more respectful of her time. They saw her reading, exercising, pursuing her goals. She became the role model she wanted to be. The pattern is always the same. When these individuals finally gave themselves permission to put themselves first, everything else improved, their relationships deepened, their impact expanded, their satisfaction soared. Not because they did more, but because they did what mattered most. Now it's your turn. Everything you've heard today is useless without action. So right now, in this moment, you face a choice, not a choice about what to do, a choice about who to become. Will you continue being the person who puts themselves last, or will you become someone who knows their true worth? Stand up right now. Stand up, because this is your moment of decision. Put your hand on your heart. Feel it beating. That heartbeat is your reminder that every moment you spend not prioritizing yourself is a moment you can never get back. Take out your phone right now. Open your calendar. What's the first thing scheduled for tomorrow morning? If it's not time for yourself, change it. Block off the first 30 minutes of your day. Label it my priority time. That's your first step. That's your declaration to yourself and the world that things are changing. Remember what you learned about the oxygen mask. Remember Rachel's story. Remember Michael's transformation. But most importantly, remember the world doesn't need another burned out, stressed out, overwhelmed version of you. The world needs you at your best, your brightest, your most energized.